What's going on, everybody? This is your man, Big Stu, Scott Stewart, or Professor Stewart, depending on how you know me. And we are back for another edition of Dope People on the Dope People podcast. And again, I am not letting you down when I bring you somebody dope. Tonight's guest is dope by all means necessary, Miss Elizabeth Meyers. Miss Elizabeth Meyers, welcome to the Dope People podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. I hope I'm dope by the time this is over. So let's see.
You are highly recommended. And so you are here because like I was telling you in the pregame, my network is dope. So when people in my network recommend other people, I don't question it too tough. I trust my circle of influence. So somebody in the circle was like, you need to reach out to Elizabeth Meyers, have her on your show. And I was like, bet. And I sent the bat signal out and you are here. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So as you all know, all of the listeners know, Dope People Podcast is designed to sit down with high achieving educational leaders, primarily principals, superintendents, leaders of organizations that are in the education space, whatever the case may be, right? I think as a teacher, teachers, educators are so underappreciated. It is a thankless job, but some of the world's leaders wouldn't be where they are if it weren't for educators. I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for educators in my life. You wouldn't be where you are if it weren't for educators. So welcome to Dope People, where we are highlighting the best and brightest in the space of education. But before we get started, in every episode, we like to play a little game.
Uh-oh.
A little light game of this or that. Are you familiar with this or that?
I mean, yeah. Yes. Yes. I'm a little nervous for this, but yes, I am.
It's harmless, nothing incriminating. Okay. Nothing incriminating. All right, so we're just going to do a few small rounds. I want the audience to get a chance to know you, right? Okay. A little bit. And we've never met before. We didn't rehearse this, right? Is that accurate? We didn't rehearse this, did we?
No.
We didn't go to school together. We've never dated. We didn't graduate. We didn't grow up in the same neighborhood. We don't even know each other, right?
We don't know. No.
All right. Because I don't want people to think that we mastermind this the way it's going to come off so eloquently. But let's get into it. All right. You ready? Ready.
Yes.
Wonder Woman or Catwoman?
Oh, Wonder Woman.
Wow. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Chicago winters or Chicago summers?
When I was younger, it was Chicago winters, but now I am all summer, all day summer.
Okay. All right. A night on the town or quiet night at home?
These are good questions. A night at home for the most, yeah.
Okay. Music or book?
Music.
Okay. All right.
Does audio count as music? Audiobooks, does that count? Like there's so many gray areas now. But.
So science says, and you all can look it up, listening to audiobooks has the same result as reading the books.
Music.
Okay. All right. Hip hop or house?
Ooh. Hip hop.
Okay. All right. I like this. Let's keep going. Few more subtle rounds, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Okay.
All right. Teachers or principals?
Teachers is the backbone of the work. They get dirty. Teachers.
Okay. All right. We're digging in, people. Unions or non-unions?
Oh, I've worked in both. Man,
Sorry.
non-union based on my experience.
Wow. Wow.
I know and I was a union teacher. I was a teacher under the union.
I give that same response no matter what the answer is. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'll blow it up no matter what you say.
Yeah.
It is a good one. It is a good one. Virtual education or traditional education?
I'm going to break the mold because I believe in both. But if I had to pick, it would be in person. In person.
Traditional. Wow. Okay. All right. Finally, college or no college? From a student's perspective, college or no college?
Contributing member of society. College, because it doesn't have to be for a year. You can go to a 2-year institution and come out with a license if you play it right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with college.
You're going with college.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for playing this or that.
Good questions. I can wiggle myself out of all of those answers. Good questions.
Good educational leaders should be able to justify their positions. Let's get to know you a little bit more. So, are you born and raised in Chicago? Tell us a little bit about where you're from.
I am born and raised in Chicago on the southeast side, right off of Jeffrey, 90th and Jeffrey. I come from a home of mom, dad. There are 10 siblings. I have 9 brothers, and I'm the only girl.
Wow.
And so a lot of my brothers I helped to raise because I was the second oldest. So I've been groomed to be a nurturer. Actually, I feel like groomed to do the role that I do. My parents started out very young on the west side of Chicago, and they have raised 9 boys. None of them have ever been incarcerated, and are all but 2. One of my youngest brother passed away unexpectedly, and my older brother works in law enforcement, but the rest of them, we all have college degrees from the South Side.
Wow, now, that's a whole nother episode just on the parenting of 9 Black kids from the west and south sides of Chicago that are seemingly relatively positive contributors to society. What kind of student were you, Ms. Meyers?
I had the ability, but I always didn't put it forth. In elementary school, I got in trouble quite a bit. Never achieved honor roll status because I couldn't stop talking. Exercise self-control, I got that check every single time. High school, I got myself together the end of senior year when I realized that, I probably should go to college because I don't want to be in my parents' house anymore. So let me find another way to get out. So I was somebody that had a lot of potential, but did not realize it until I was like forced or someone just kind of opening my eyes to what I could become.
Very, very interesting. Now, did you always know you wanted to be in education, or how did you wind up in education? What was that path for you? Like, what were you? Yeah, tell us how you got to, because currently you are doing some work at After School Matters that we'll talk about, but I understand that you were also, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were a school principal.
Yes.
And so you don't just start at a school principal. Did you always know you wanted to get into education? Can you take us through that a little bit?
No, I did not I never knew I wanted to be a teacher growing up. I did not have that desire. I actually got into education. My path was I was going to do higher ed. So doing something in ed, but not teaching, like support.
And did you always know that, or did that come out in college or after college?
It came out in college. I did some campus tours. I worked with that department. So admissions. So I worked in admissions. Growing up, I knew that I wanted to help people. Okay. That's what I did know. What it exactly would be, to be honest, I wasn't sure. And so through my experience in undergrad, with admissions, I said, oh, I'll go into higher ed. And I started out when I graduated as an admissions counselor. And I remember being assigned to schools on the north side of Chicago and then the northwest suburbs. I remember going to one CPS school, shall remain nameless. And when I got there, they gave me a table in front of the cafeteria and said, good luck with recruiting. And then on the flip side of that, I went to a school in a very nice northwest suburb, and they had a full college department. They had their students made appointments with me to meet with me. And in myself, I said, if our teens never are even introduced to college in the right way, they'll never make it. So my idea was to go back to school to be a high school counselor. That never happened. I became a teacher in Englewood. So I started my career in Englewood through an alternative certification program. And I taught math, which I was a horrible student. I was a horrible student for math. So the fact that I became like a very good math teacher is crazy to me as well. And from there, I just had leaders that would pour into me, or colleagues that would pour into me. And I was a math coach. And my principal at the time, he passed away, said, I see something in you that maybe you don't see. And he gave me the opportunity to kind of help him lead and do some of that work. And I haven't looked back since. It's been slowly progressing to the role of principal and even an instructional support leader in the network.
Wow. Yeah. I personally can identify with your math story. I sucked at math in middle school and high school, and I'm almost a human calculator today. So I understand that, you know, we have a lot in common, and I'm starting to understand why I was referred to you, because I was a non-traditional student, just simply because of pure effort. Like, I wasn't feeling school, and I was an average student. I did enough to not get in too much trouble at home. But I always say it had nothing to do with my lack of intelligence. It was, you know, I was more focused on being popular, playing sports, and, you know, just, I didn't have the connection with educators, with teachers. And so the fact that I got into education, first of all, was just crazy to me. And then the fact that I was pretty good at it was the second, you know, realization that I think this is a gift. And it sounds like the same for you, kind of like you were ordained, you were called.
That's crazy, because I say, this is my ministry. This is what I was put on earth to do.
So what's working? What worked for you as a principal? What was dope about being a principal?
I think for me is seeing people pour into children and even into themselves. So I wasn't just a leader who wanted you to do the work for kids. I came from the place of emotional intelligence, right? If you're no good, then you'll be no good for my students. So let's work on you and what you have going on, and then we can start to attack what's happening with our students. One thing, I had a presenter that said, and it stuck out with me. He said, who you are shows up at work. And so if you have all of this other baggage and things that are going on, not to say that I'm your personal counselor, your personal healer, but we do need to address some of that SEL, adult SEL in you, so that you can be the best thing for your students. And so that's the place. I always started from the place of being human before I approached you as a worker. Because if you're no good as a human, you're not going to be a good worker, right? Or I'll walk away and then you'll revert back to whatever it is that you were doing. So while all my staff may not have liked me, what I believe that they can all walk away with is saying is that they left with their dignity intact. And if they were willing to do the work, they left as a better person under my leadership. And that's something that I hold like near and dear to me. And I used to tell my staff, if what I do to you, you'll pay it forward. So if I treat you with dignity, if I treat you with respect, if I help you grow yourself professionally, then that next group of kids that you touch will pay it forward. But if I come at you and I attack you and I know that you have deficits and I won't work to address your deficits and I just continue to demean you and leave you with no dignity, then guess what? That group of kids that you get next, they're going to pay for it too. So always remember, whatever I'm doing with this person, I need to remember the next group of kids that they get, because they'll be the recipients of whatever energy that I put into that person.
Oh, that's profound. And that's good, because not all principals operate from that place. Teachers are often criticized, often beat up, and I'm one of the people that sometimes am very critical of not just teachers. I'm critical of teachers. I can be critical of principals. I've been critical of the Chicago public school system, but I'm on the inside, and I think I am entitled to be that critical. I'm gonna not act like I'm not. I feel entitled as an insider to be critical of the system in which I am aligned with. But I also know that there's some really good teachers out there. What makes, in your opinion, what makes for a really effective, dope teacher?
Number one that comes with the passion and believes in the work that they do. I can teach you content, but I can't teach you passion. And not just passion for teaching, but developing the passion for the group of the community that they're working in. You can't just say, I want to teach second graders. No, you have to believe in the ability of second graders in West Englewood who are going through whatever is happening. You have to believe in that capacity, not just the ideal of what we would ideally want, but having the passion and the courage to teach and to take on all the problems that will come with that. That's number one. Like, I can't help, if you don't have that, then we can just stop the conversation. The other part of that is coachable, being coachable. And I had one teacher, she was a veteran, 25-year veteran, but open to hearing new ideas, open to hearing what could happen and not just suck in, well, this is what works. This is what I believe works. This is what this is what I'm comfortable with for giving my students, versus, well, what is going to be the best way for my students that I have the passion and full belief in to get what I need them to get. So being passionate about the students that they serve, and that and being coachable and open to trying new things and being okay. It may not work, but guess what? What we're doing now isn't working either. So what do we have to lose?
That's interesting that you say that, because it kind of feeds right into kind of the next point that I want to push this conversation. We're quote unquote post-pandemic education now. And I've heard many educational leaders say, particularly on the onset of getting students back into the building, we want to get back to what we were doing. And so hear that statement. And that's exactly, we want to get back to what we were doing pre-pandemic. And I have, again, my criticism just escalates when I hear that statement. Because first of all, from my perspective, getting back to was in the last decade, 2018, 2019. We're in a new decade, and pushing students forward is us as educational leaders looking to the future, not trying to go back to the past, right? And so I hear you, and again, understanding why we were connected, I hear you talking about being open-minded as an educational leader, being open-minded as a teacher, but are you finding educational leaders, more educational leaders being that open-minded, or more educational leaders still trying to get back to what was?
That's good. So I would say that there are some that do want to just go back to where we were in March 2019, right? This is what life was. And I would say maybe 60 or so percent want to just get back to that because that's what's comfortable, right? That as a human, we go back to what we are comfortable with. And then we have this other group that are trying to figure out what the new reality really looks like, while also trying to manage the mandates that may not match to what the new, the new reality requires. And so even some of my principal friends who are still in it, trying to navigate, knowing what's best for their students, for their staff, and managing what's coming down to them so that they can live and be effective in the role that they do. So I think there is a mix, and it's hard, I think, and that's part of what makes it hard, because as I used to say, the reality of what's standing in front of me doesn't necessarily match the policy that was created. So my job was to figure out what is the essence of the law that I have to meet while still making it relevant to the context and the group of people that I'm serving in my building.
So what's the answer? If you could run a district, 5 schools, 3 schools, 5,000 schools of your choosing, as we look forward to this decade, and we're at the beginning of, we're in the 3rd decade of the 2000s. What would that look like for you?
You're gonna think I'm just saying this, but I really would need to look at every school, and every school, while there will be some things that will be foundational across. So one, respecting and honoring where students are, respecting and honoring student voice and expressing where they are and what they need. And then outside of that, it would look at the population that school is serving. Sometimes I know that you have to have things across the board, right? We have to have some formalized things across the board. But if we're entering a world where students get to log in and log out and then tap in and tap out, then we have to change some of what we're doing and really make things more individualized for that school. These are fundamentals, but there are some big ticket things that I would meet with each one of that groups of administration and say, okay, what are your needs? Let's do a needs assessment. Let's see, what do you need? Because you might not need what I'm trying to make you take. And really figuring out, okay, this is what we need. This is what you're committing to, and this is what I'm holding you accountable for. And if you're committing to it, that means I'm trusting your judgment. And if it works, we can all celebrate. If it doesn't, then we have to have a conversation about accountability, because I honored your voice. I honored what you said. Now it's your job to make it work.
That's phenomenal, right? And I get it, right? We're educational leaders. You're a phenomenal, dope educational leader. And many of us, these are my words, are dreamers. We're visionary. We're eagles in the sky, which means we have this bird's eye perspective, particularly around what would work and why it would work. And that's the ideology, right? But then there's, as you've talked about, the reality versus, right? And in this case, the reality versus the vision, right? Do you find that principals, and you having been a principal, do you find that principals are open to these suggestions, or only, and now this may sound, I'm going here.
Oh, Lord.
I'm going here.
Okay.
Are principals open to these suggestions, or are they too egotistical that if it's not their idea, if they didn't come up with it, they won't present it? Are principals open to really doing the work?
So I'm going to say that I think the majority, in my experience, my circle of who I worked with, the majority of them are open to it. I will say that there is a nice amount of leaders that are jaded by so many changes, so many things, that they are not they're very hesitant to listen, because it's almost like, oh, here's another thing that, that's being done to me, right? Difference between being done with me and to me. So many things have been done to them that they're not open to the idea that maybe possibly you really could be on my side and really trying to honor my voice. And because so many things have been done to me, I no longer have an idea about what I really think about it anyway, because it's been done to me all this time. I haven't had I remember when I got to my last school, I was asking my staff, I said, so tell me about this. What do you want to do for this? What do you want to do? And one of my teachers said, why don't you just tell us what to do? I said, because that's not how it works. Like, we're in this together. It's like, it's just easier if you tell me what to do.
Oh, man, I get it.
Right? Talk about how demoralized that person is, how their voice has been silently hammered down to the point that they don't even have one. And if they heard it, they wouldn't even recognize it.
Man. Wow. Yeah, that hurts. I get that. Yeah. And I know that probably makes the job for superintendents and network chiefs and principal that much more difficult. Going back to this conversation about being post-pandemic and public education particularly, but private education is in the same boat, right? We're just talking education. I'm skewed towards public education because I primarily served in the public sector, but this goes for all educators, parochial, private, alternative, whatever the case may be. I was in a school recently and I heard a teacher refer to their students as lazy because they've been off in Chicago, nearly 2 years. We had the strike and then we had the pandemic and then we had the entire year shut down. It was almost 2 full years.
Yep.
And now the students are back, and this instructor, this classroom teacher referred to their students as lazy. Are you hearing that? Are students lazy right now?
Well, I'm going to say that if the students are lazy, there's some adults that are too. That, got used to being at home too. Everybody was at home besides administrators who were going in when the trucks were full of dead bodies. Like, we were still there. So I think if we want to call that lazy, then that goes across the board. They're children, so maybe they become accustomed to things being a certain kind of way, and we have to work up the reps and that resilience because of what it was. We have high schoolers that this is their first time ever being in high school, and they're juniors. They're going into their junior year, their sophomore year, but they're still under the guise of being freshmen because school shut down. So I would not say it's lazy. I think that, I wouldn't say lazy. It's new. It's new.
We've been through a lot. We've been through the George Floyd. We've been through Ahmaud Arbery. We've been through Breonna. We've been through so much.
Yeah.
We're different, and we're 2 years older.
They're 2 years old, and people, regardless, no matter what age, we're traumatized because it's almost like we're waiting for what's next. So every time they say, oh, the surge is coming, and it's like, oh God, again, people are traumatized more than anything, and just used to doing things a certain kind of way, because that's what I've done for the last 2 years. That's human. It's not about being lazy or not wanting to do it. You could say disengage. Now, is there a level of disengagement that we've never seen? Absolutely. There is a huge, and we have teens that were originally, or students that were, on the borderline of being engaged or not wanting to do school. And there's a whole cohort of kids that are like, I'm done with school and I'm never going back. And they have no intention of ever going back. So is engagement on the rise? Yes. Disengagement, yes. But lazy, I would say no.
That up. Which also leads me to my next point. I have noticed from the outside looking in, and this isn't necessarily being reported, the number of altercations, fights that have taken place in school buildings since August, the number of students being expelled, suspended, or even kicked out of classrooms. Where's the empathy? Where's the, I know I want to hats off to, I want to give support to teachers.
Mhm.
This is not, and I feel like I have to tell people this. I'm not bashing teachers or principals. I'm critical of the system.
Mm.
And I'm advocating, if I'm being honest, which I'm always being honest as I can be, I'm advocating for these young people over everybody.
Absolutely.
I'm putting these young people over teachers and principals, quite honestly.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so I don't like, I've been a classroom teacher, and in my nearly 20 years of classroom teaching, I've had to put 2 students out of a classroom before. 2. I don't have classroom, those types of issues in my classroom. But what would you say to teachers who feel like they're so fed up, frustrated with students that they, are taken aback by their misbehavior and just feel like they should be kicked out of their classrooms? Any thoughts about that?
That's deep. And I would say that, one, I can believe it. If you've driven down the Dan Ryan in the last year or so, people drive. They're not fighting, getting out, and well, some are getting out and fighting, but the level of aggression, period, is just at an all-time high. And so why did I leave the principalship, right? Why did I leave the school? Which I'm gonna get your question, the answer to your question is coming. It got to a point that I had to ask myself, can I give them what they need? And the answer is, can I give them that? Yes. Do I have the ability, the capacity to give them that? Yes. So then the next question has to be, am I willing to give them and make the sacrifices that I needed to make in my home to give my school what it needed? And the answer was no. And I've always lived by this rule that we cannot, and I used to tell myself, we cannot get paid off the backs of children, especially poor children. So I had to eat my own words. Well, Liz, if you can't give them what they need, or you're not willing to give them what they need, then it's time for you to tap out so that somebody else can give them that, and so that you're not getting paid off of the backs of them. I could have come and coasted in. I had 2 years left on my contract. I could have easily done that. I had built a great school, had every system that we needed there. But I knew at the end of the day, because this is my ministry, right? This is what I said I believe in. If I cannot walk with my head high and go to sleep at night knowing that I gave and did everything that I needed to do, then I had to tap out. And that would be the advice that I give for teachers. When you get to the point that the thing that gave you joy initially no longer gives you joy, and joy is not subjective. Joy is joy, right? You can say I'm happy. That's subjective depending on the context or situation. But if it doesn't give you joy and bring something positive to your life, you got to tap out, because at the end of the day, this is the next generation of people. You're pouring venom, negativity into the next generation. What do you think that generation is going to bear? What fruits are they going to bear? Negativity, aggression. So, man, tap out. Be it for a little bit of time, be it for a long bit of time. But you got to tap out if you really can't give them what they really need, or you're not willing to give them what they need, and you don't have joy. You have to do this. The work is too hard to go to work every day, mad, tired, angry. Oh my God, it's too hard with all the things we have to manage. And now you're bringing that energy into the classroom. Tap out.
Wow. Wow. Great response. Great response. I know we're coming up on time. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. So you're doing some work over at After School Matters. Is that still being run by Maggie Daly, or no?
So Maggie Daly started it. Our new CEO, or our CEO, current CEO, is Karen, Mary Ellen Karen.
Okay.
And so we're here. I'm here with a fresh perspective, fresh lens, and learning about, even myself, what after school matter really can offer to the teens in our city. So this position actually allows me to think broad, right? Like you said, be the eagle in the sky and dream big to see how can it really live, so that we can impact teens when they get out of school.
Are you all in person or are you doing virtual?
We have both. So we offer in-person programming for teens that are comfortable with that. And we also offer virtual for teens that, are not vaccinated or don't feel comfortable being in person. And we have a very robust program that we're running, from nail tech, coding, art, dance, music, 3D printing, makerspace. We offer a variety of things for our teens to get involved in, and get paid while they're doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I facilitated out an after school matters program, back in 2005, from 2005 to about 2007.
Okay, we might need to get you back in podcasting.
Yeah. Well, we can have that conversation potentially. We can possibly talk about that. Last point, and then I know you have some amazing things to get to. What subject areas, what topics, what should students be focused on learning over the next 10, 20 years?
Yeah, so we need to prep kids for jobs that we don't even know exist. Our brains can't even wrap around what jobs we'll be preparing them for. That's the one thing. So we have to let go of what we were raised and how the jobs that we currently have, some of them will exist, but a lot of them won't. And there'll be this new piece, right? So I think we really have to spend some time in SEL, social emotional learning, not just as a checklist, but really digging into their social emotional wellness as well as executive functioning skills.
Wow.
We went to a place where people are working remote. So in order to be productive while you're working remote, you need to have self-management, time management skills. You need to have some sense of urgency to control yourself so that you don't just say, well, I'm at home and they're paying me and I'm just going to watch TV all day or do what I want to do. Where is this self-monitoring piece that we have? So we have to dig into the executive functioning skills, because many of the jobs probably won't require them to come in on a day-to-day basis, but they still need to be effective, which leads me to this idea of STEAM. Our students are at such a disadvantage of, they know how to play video games, but are we going behind and teaching the language of coding, the language of digital media? Because that is the way that the world is moving, whether we agree with it or not. It's not for us to say. Our job is to prepare children for the future. And so we have to dig into, and we ourselves can't be afraid of this digital piece, which going remote opened up the world of teaching and what it can look like remote, right? So we and the kids were doing better than we thought because they knew it already. Like, I gotta do this, So we're the ones that had to learn it. Our job was to teach them self-monitoring skills, right? That executive functioning. How do you control yourself when you're at home and I can't reach out and touch you and say stop, but I still need you to stop. So how do I do that? We have to teach them that and honor the space. And I know this is maybe taboo. Honor the space that everybody may not attend a four-year college. But if the job is, if we know that we have teens or students that have short attention spans, don't really enjoy school, and then we say, the only way you can be successful is if you go to this four-year school, we're not honoring what they do with their hands. We're not honoring the creative side of them that can still lend them money. Still earn the money, still get them to what they want. If we don't honor that side, we have a whole generation that we will lose, which I see as a principal. I saw my 8th grade boys graduating. And I said, oh, what high school you going to? And they had no intention of going to high school. I'm not going to high school. Wait a minute, high school, that's where you have the girls and the game. And they're like, I don't care about that. Because we did not do a good job. And I'm gonna say because I was the leader, did not do a good job of exposing them to the world outside of just a 4-year college, to expose them to high schools that could give them what they needed based on where they wanted to go. Bigger than that expose them to the idea that life outside of what they know could exist and that it was in reach. If we would have just spent a little bit more time digging into who you are and what is it that you want to do. And my job as a leader, my job as a teacher is to help you find that path. We have to do that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You really laid it down on this episode. Liz.
I tried.
I heard you call yourself Miss Elizabeth Meyers, Liz in the building. Wow. You are dope. You are dope people. You are dope people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the conversation. I'm very nervous to be on, but thank you. This was good stuff.
Yeah. I'm already seeing where I'd like to potentially invite you back. Back on. I think there are a couple of conversations that I think the listeners would benefit from. Your voice. I think you have some amazing insights into this, space for educational leaders, sharing some of these best practices and really pushing forward this new education where we are going forward, where we are now. We're here now.
We're here.
We're here. The future is here. It arrived.
The future is here, and it hasn't even revealed all the complexities that are to come from the last 2 years. We're not done. We're not out of it.
Yeah, when I heard you talk about preparing young people for jobs that we don't know exist, it's reported that Apple will be the largest medical company in 20 years.
Right.
A medical company. And if I don't know if you use Apple products, but you have an Apple Watch, it has the heart monitor, your phone, and they're connecting the dots now.
Yep.
And so your heart rate goes up. Your Apple will be at the forefront of connecting the doctors and sending out your meds and reviving you, maybe sending some shock through your device.
Yeah, I'm sure it's coming.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
sure it's coming.
Absolutely.
I'm sure, and as much as we can't fathom and wrap our brains around it, it's coming, and we're helping them build the blueprint for what is to come. So it's scary for people to dig into, and maybe that was part of the reason why people say, oh, here comes troublemaker, here I come troublemaker, but it's real. It's real.
Yeah. And I think for me, I feel like I'm living in a space right now. You ever said to yourself, if I only knew then what I know now?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm living in a space where it's like, well, now I know, so I get to make decisions based on what I now know. I've been here in the past where I've been apprehensive to something new and missed out. Like I could have got Bitcoin when it was 3 cents. And there's $67,000 for one. I'd be 100 millionaire, 5-6 times over had I spent $100 12 years ago. So I know now, and I'm not gonna play myself.
Man, hindsight is 20/20.
And when you recognize that and flip that, now you can use it going forward. And that's where I'm really trying to help us as a people get that foresight, have that sagaciousness to be forward thinking about what's happening. So let's not be afraid to push the envelope, to change the narrative, and to be dope people. Yep.
By doing something a little bit different.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for giving us some of your time tonight, Miss Liz Elizabeth Meyers. Any final words you want listeners to know, or anything you want to impart before final thoughts?
I will just say at the end of the day, there will be administrators and educators or anybody, out here listening, that the role of a teacher, the role of a school leader and you said it at the beginning, it's a thankless job. It is a hard job, and it takes everything that you have to do it effectively. And just let people know that people are making sacrifices in their home. They're making personal sacrifices, financial sacrifices to do the work to help our future. So thank an administrator, thank a teacher who gets dirty in it every day. And I appreciate them sticking it out and being there. And while I may not be serving in the trenches, I'm with you in spirit and still trying to make a difference. So, man, you've got this.
Wow, thank you so much. And hey, that's all I have. I can't say anymore. You already know what it is. This is your man, Big Stu, Scott Stewart, the Professor Stewart. Until next time, peace.